And first up, the Bank of Ghana will sell a total of $200 million to bulk oil distribution companies in the first quarter of 2023 in a forex forward auction. This is $220 million lower than the amount it sold to the BDCs in the first quarter of 2022. But will the amount of dollars be enough to support the importation of oil? Here's more in this report.
The calendar showed that the Bank of Ghana will be auctioning $80 million in January this year, $60 million in February, and $60 million again in March this year, bringing the total amount to be auctioned around $200 million. This is a special program that the Bank of Ghana has in place when it comes to selling of dollars to bulk oil distribution companies to finance the importation of finished petroleum products into the country. This means that there will be another auction program to finance other critical imports. But looking at the current pressure on the Ghana city and demand picking up in the first 3 months of this year, many are surprised about the amount that the Bank of Ghana will be selling to these bulk oil distribution firms in the first quarter of this year, looking at the fact that it sold $400 million in the last quarter of 2022. However, sources say the reduction in the amount can be linked to the implementation of the Go for Oil program, which Joy Business understands some of the bulk oil companies are working to participate. According to these bulk importers, this dollar auction program by the Bank of Ghana had gone a long way to stabilize prices of petroleum products on the market over the last 2 months. They even maintained that the Bank of Ghana was able to meet about 80% of their request when it comes to dollars to finance the imports of petroleum products.
And joining us on Zoom, energy strategist Dr. Yusuf Sulemana to discuss this further. Happy New Year to you, Yusuf. Any cause for alarm based on this report that the BDCs are getting fewer dollars for the import of crude oil? That's more than 50% off what they previously received same period last year.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you, Daryl, and good afternoon to your viewers in Ghana and across the globe. Thank you for having me. Yes, indeed. If you look at the quantum that we require to meet our consumption on monthly basis, this figure is woefully inadequate. However, you cannot look at it in isolation. You have to look at it at the fact that, in the context of the fact that maybe there's some strategy in place behind the scenes. And I think your report just, mentioned one key strategy that is in the left, which is this petroleum product to gold exchange with UAE. So looking at the amount, Daryl, if you segregate the amount from this kind of gold to petroleum product deal, the amount is hopefully not big. We need over $400 million on a monthly basis to import petroleum products. So to give $200 million within the first quarter, it will create a lot of gap. I mean, a huge gap. However, like I said, we cannot sound alarmed at this moment in time because we are told that, I want to believe that because of the gold to oil deal or because of the petroleum product, to gold exchange that is being championed by Bank of Ghana and other allied agencies within the downstream sector, if that is able to cover the deficit that we have, then I think there shouldn't be any cause, for concern. And if you look at it, what actually caused the stability of the prices at the pump is just because of the availability of the forex and nothing else. It has nothing to do with any other thing. So if at any point in time we don't have so much available, so much in the system with respect to this greenback, the dollar I'm talking about, then we're bound to have pressure. But it's early days yet. We have to wait. This month is a crucial month for the downstream. But this is the first time we have going to this kind of deal. If the deal do succeed, then I think there's no cause to worry that much.
Well, based on our reporting today, the first consignment of the oil and the government's goal for oil barter is expected to come in this week from the United Arab Emirates. That's a contract, according to government, is to guarantee supply of cheaper finished products. And government announced that initiative in October to address the depreciation of the cedi against the dollar especially. And you make a point as to how this is going to change the dynamics when it comes to supply of fuel. I've not heard your thoughts on this barter. Do you think that is going to be helpful in, to some extent, meeting us the supply of fuel to the markets right now as it is, and as we're hearing, as we've indicated that, well, we are getting fewer dollars this time for the BDCs to import fuel?
Yeah, so on the surface, if you look at it from the fact that, it's going to limit the pressure, it's going to take away the pressure that we have on the dollar, definitely it's going to bring a lot of stability, to the market, to the downstream market. But you have to look at it in the broader context. I always say that the devil lies in the details. This policy has to be championed surgically, rather. Why I'm saying that, because we do have a downstream in place, and the downstream is robust. And I think I have to congratulate them, I have to commend them. Where in other countries we're having fuel shortages, Ghana will never experience any erratic fuel supply, even in the midst of this anarchy and pandemonium within the international scene. So my bit of problem that I have, whatever the policy is going to be, they should make sure that they, groom in this existing, BDCs, existing bulk oil supply, the downstream players. They shouldn't work with this policy and segregate these downstream players. That is going to be a problem. Because I see this policy as, at best, medium term. I'm saying that medium term because I think it's not a long term and a sustainable policy that we can rely on. I always believe that any policy that result for we depending on outside partners is always energy security, will always have energy security ramifications. At any point in time, we need to make sure that we are self-dependent. And the self-dependent here means that we have to have a refinery that can refine this product. But coming back to the context of this deal, we have to make sure that we don't destroy our downstream sector. And I'm happy that they are involving a lot of BDCs, I'm told, in this kind of negotiation. And I also want to believe that they want to use Go Energy and the oil as well as what's your boss to champion this. So they are already part of this downstream sector. The only thing is that the other players, how are they going to cope? Are we not going to destroy the market? Are we not going to bring fragments into the market? If the government handles it well, without bringing any segregation within the market in terms of other players, how they are going to be able to cope with respect to how they can get cheaper petroleum products to satisfy the market, then we are good to go. And I think, well, they've done that before. We just have to make sure that we champion the policy so that the gains are not disproportionate, to the potential negative impact. And the only potential negative impact that I foresee here is the fact that apart from oil, probably and Go Energy, who are going to work with this plane, what about the other BDCs? How are they going to price their products? Of course, we are in a deregulated region. So the fact is that if they can bring in the product in massive quantities, it's good for the end user as a consumer. In any case, it will be able to stabilize the market in the long term. But the question is that we should make sure that we don't destroy the downstream structure as it is now.
Yeah, and I know that Tema Oil Refinery has been on your heart a lot. You talk about the fact that we should have our own refinery. Now, if you're going to depend on other countries for finished products, it makes us a bit reluctant to pursue total revamp of the Tema Oil Refinery. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a fact. That's why I always think that this is just a short, this at best, I can say it's a medium term. First of all, how much gold do we need to champion this deal? If you do the calculation, we need about 200 ounces of gold, and we have to buy it. Bank of Ghana has to purchase it. All of these are precious. We are dependent on each other on this kind of route. If there's any blockage or any constraint in any of this supply chain, the cascading impact is going to be dire. So overall, it's a good thing that you have mentioned. Getting this policy in place, I don't think we have to push aside the long-term sustainable measure, which is having Tema Oil Refinery. And I think that if you look at the quantum of, hard currency that we use, about $400 million, I don't think we need more than $500 million to get Tema Oil Refinery in running mode. So yes, I think our focus should be to guarantee, self-reliance in terms of our energy security. And we can only do that if we have, a local-based refinery that is efficient and robust enough to be able to supply the downstream sector. And I think we can do that. Yeah.
All right. I appreciate it if you could answer this in a minute. Your outlook for the energy sector this year?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's going to be very interesting. I foresee the international dynamics still going to remain as it is. We're going to have what is happening in the international scene projected to the first quarter of this year. But what's going to happen is that if the forex situation in Ghana is stable, then I don't anticipate that we're going to see any erratic, fuel pricing at the downstream. But based on the international dynamics, I think it may help us a bit. because as you know, I mean, crude oil prices are below 80s as we speak now. And because of the reason is that China is having a lot of issues. They are probably the number one oil consumer in terms of how much they import, from the international market, So whenever there's an impact on China in terms of this COVID restriction, the cascading impact on the market is only that. So yes,
all right.
I foresee that in the first quarter, we are not going to see an erratic jump. We might see it stable like this, but the international dynamic is something that is fluid. It's early days yet. We just have to wait and see, after the first quarter. But my prediction is that I think within the first quarter, we're still going to see oil prices in the 80s or at most below the 80s. And that is very good for our downstream if it happens that way, especially if it is coupled with a stable forex rate. I think we are good to go. Yeah.
Good to speak with you, Dr. Isil Sulemana, energy strategist. Happy New Year once again. Now, the international research and market information firm Fit Solutions is predicting a narrow current account deficit of 4% in relation to the size of the economy for Ghana this year, from 4.4% recorded last year. This is expected to impact positively on the value of the Ghana cedi. However, that will be subject to an improved fiscal position, including prudent spending and sustainable debt levels. The country has been recording trade surplus since 2018, but capital flight as a result of high interest payments and sell-offs of the country's bonds by foreign investors have triggered a weak current account position. Mike Kuniga is Senior Country Risk Analyst at Fitch Solutions.
We project that the current account deficit, which is reflected by the line in light pink here, has widened notably in 2022 on the back of large primary income outflows caused by elevated interest payments on Ghana's external debt. But we expect a very slight improvement in 2023. Indeed, we forecast the current account deficit will reach 4% of GDP in 2023 from 4.4% in 2022. So what is the key reason behind this improvement? As I already mentioned, we forecast healthy production growth for Ghana's most prominent exports, gold, oil, and cocoa, which will prop up export growth next year. At the same time, we believe that import growth will be weak on the back of slowing domestic demand, given still elevated inflation and the prospects of higher taxes. This will put downside pressure on demand for imported consumer items and imported capital goods, and thus improve the overall trade balance.
Now, with Ghana's recent turbulent economic conditions, CEO of Magdan Group of Companies, Daniel Macaulay, has predicted the collapse of many businesses due to the country's current exchange rate. According to him, Ghana's current economic situation would force many businesses to fold up. Take a listen.
We come from an environment where we all see problems. And I believe that you need a little bit of tenacity to look elsewhere differently from the same way of doing things. It's been tough, but it doesn't mean we should all sit back and look at the troubles. I always say that in times of adversity, we have to find solutions to problems. It doesn't mean I am doing well, but maybe I'm looking at things differently. I am not looking at the troubles. A lot of businesses are collapsing, I can tell you, and you have not seen anything yet. More businesses are going to collapse, looking at exchange rate somewhere about 44%. So we should brace ourselves for tougher times coming. So for me, it's been tough though, but I look beyond the ordinary to look at other areas where there are opportunities and where it's not easy terrain, but we have to be there.
And you're welcome back to the marketplace. We are just 9 days into the new year, and we know it's going to be a tight one as the government works to revive the ailing economy. So how do you work out your finances this year? Individuals, businesses. Joining me in studio is Randolph Ano, who is Associate Director, Accounting Advisory Services at KPMG, to give us some tips, right? Good to have you in studio. And I just want to start with the question of what financial planning is and why it is important for individuals and businesses during these times that we expect to be in an austere economy?
Thank you, Daryl. Let me take advantage to wish all your listeners a happy new year. So financial planning essentially is a process where you create a roadmap to utilize your financial resources effectively to achieve set goals. So in summary, that is financial planning. In Ghana, especially in Accra, there is a common saying that Accra stay by plan. And when people do make that statement, typically a lot of people have moved from different parts of Ghana to Accra. So they know that if they don't manage their affairs well, there is no mother or father to maybe bail you out. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in austerity, it becomes more critical for you to plan your finances very well, because if you don't do that, you may be caught by some sort of surprises, mm-hmm. right? Those who intentionally determine what they want to do in times like this, because we are not in normal times, are able to navigate this period better than those who don't plan at all. Benjamin Franklin said that if you don't plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
All right. So whether you like it or not, or if you decide not to do anything, there is something there's a plan. All right. But if you carefully sit down and say, what are the things that I want to achieve financially? What steps must I take to get there? Yes, you may not be able to estimate and anticipate everything, but you are better placed to navigate these difficult times than those who just leave things to chance. The government is doing it. They are taking a number of steps to also navigate mm-hmm. or things better this time. So we as individuals or as corporates also need to take a similar steps so that you can better navigate these times well.
Yeah, and you make a point about us being in unpredictable times. Consider last year, nobody foresaw the Russia-Ukraine war and its impact. I mean, they were all taken by surprise. We don't know what to expect this year. We know there's an IMF deal in the waiting, but what happens after that, we don't really know what's going to happen. And so it's important that we plan. So what are the components of financial planning?
Okay, all right. So there are a series of things when it comes to financial planning, right? So the first critical component that I see is your goal, mm-hmm. which will define what you want to achieve, right? If you don't know where you are headed, when even you achieve it, you may not realize whether you have achieved it or not, or we can't even measure whether you've actually achieved that goal or not. So for me, the key thing is, one of the key components is your goal. Where do you want to be financially? Then you look at things like cash flow forecasting or mm-hmm. planning. All right, that is essentially you looking at the way your money moves. You receive something, you pay out. So your inflows and your outflows. All right, it's something that in any financial plan will also come to play. All right, you are watching how you are receiving your money, how it is going out. Then you have also things like how you also manage your affairs to even deal with your taxes. All right, in times like this, one of the strategies that government is using at this point in time is to raise more revenue, and we know typically that is through taxes and other measures. So you as an individual or as corporate also need to see how you plan your affairs mm-hmm. to maybe say make some tax savings. You cannot avoid taxes or you cannot evade taxes, but you can plan your affairs to make some savings there. You also need to look at your liquidity, okay, how you manage that, because expenses and the rest will be thrown at you. Mm-hmm. We are in January now. Parents know that schools are coming to reopen. So you need to anticipate all the sort of burden or expenditures that you will come your way, okay? And then you define yourself such that you are able to address those things as and when they fall due. So financial planning can have several components. I've spoken about the goal, I've spoken about the cash flow planning, we are looking at tax planning. There are several things that can come in into the point of retirement planning, your estate planning, if you are educating yourself, education planning. So it can have several components or several activities, but maybe let's keep ourselves with this 3 for now.
Okay. Well, I know that at the beginning of the year, many people have goals, and I think it's also important that you set realistic goals depending on your cash flow, so that you are not caught in a hard place. So, and I believe that the next important thing to do is to have a financial plan. And so, what are some of the steps to consider in drawing a financial plan?
All right, thank you, Daryl. So in drawing a financial plan, the first point is to know where you are. Okay, you need to understand where you are now, whether you are an individual or a business. What is your current standing? Once you are clear about that, then now you define for yourself what you want to achieve, which brings us to the goals. And it's important. I mean, you outline that your goals must be specific. Typically, we say you need to set smarter goals. Yeah. So your goals must be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Okay, so know where you are, then define your goals. Then now you come to your cash flow planning, which a lot of people will say budget. All right, so that is essentially you forecasting. Right. So you are looking at what sort of money am I expecting to come to me? How do I plan to utilize this money? Obviously, you are doing all that in the context of your goal. And that is what sometimes usually people miss. So people may even budget, but they may not budget with a goal in mind. So at the end of the day, how do you know whether you are achieving A or B? All right. But if you have the goal and that inform how you do your cash flow planning, then we know that you are headed somewhere, because then we can measure at the end of the period to say you set yourself to achieve A, and indeed you have achieved that. Then after you have done your cash flow planning, you would have to continuously monitor, right, see whether you are going according to plan or not. Otherwise, it is just a plan. A plan without an action is just staying in darkness and maybe winking at a girl. You will never win that girl. So you will never achieve the plan if it is just a plan on paper. Okay. You need to act on it.
You need to act on it.
You need to act on it. So that is why the monitoring aspect becomes relevant, and then you can address. Yeah.
We just have 1 minute left. You talked about acquire, stay by plans. Everything comes with, a strategy, right?
Sure.
And so share with us in a minute, if you can, some of the strategies for efficient financial management.
So some of the strategies, especially, let's look at it in terms of the environment we find ourselves in now. It's difficult to know what will happen, because things keep changing. We are hit with COVID, and look at all the financial indicators. So in this time, you would want to stay a bit, your plan must be a bit short-term, all right, and stay a bit agile, okay, so that you can adapt, all right, because the environment we find ourselves, things keep evolving and changing day by day, all right. So for me, in these times, when you are planning, maybe your cash flow planning, let it be a bit short term, so you can come back to it and we look at what is happening in the environment and see what add-ons, okay, or what additional things that you can do. So and be agile in this time.
All right, Randolph Arnault, Associate Director, Accounting Advisory Services, KPMG. We'll be seeing and hearing from you a bit more this week, and so looking forward to that on this all-important conversation on financial planning. My name is Daryl Kwawu. Thanks for watching The Marketplace. Enjoy the rest of the holiday. We will be back same time tomorrow. Goodbye.